Hello, welcome to the final edition of Irish Heritage Month, sponsored by the Ladies Ancient Order of Hibernians. This is our final in our series, and it's one of the most important is because we are highlighting the Feast of St. Patrick as what is the highlight of Irish Heritage Month. And in particular, it's how we present St. Patrick's Day to future generations and our heritage as a whole. It gives me great privilege to introduce an author who has written his first children's book on the celebration of St. Patrick's Day, our traditions, and a holiday grouping for activities for children. John O'Brien is one of the founding family members of the Cleveland Irish Cultural Festival, which was founded in 1982. He served as co-director for 36 years. John decided to go on his other ways, and he has a passion for writing. This children's book is his first children's edition, but is certainly not his first publication. John has previous publications, first generation. He wrote about festivals. He also wrote about the songs behind our Irish freedom. John was recognized for his contributions to the Cleveland community as being named co-chairman of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. He also was recognized by Irish Echo in 2019 as one of the community champions. At this time, I'd like to introduce John O'Brien Jr.
Hello, Marilyn. Hello, everyone. So good to see you today. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking part in this important Irish Heritage Month. John, as an author, how do you come up with the topics for your books?
Most of them, and maybe even all of them, have been related to something in my mind that maybe I didn't feel was right. Misinformation type things. So the first book, Festival Legends, Songs, and Stories, I'd read a lot of things online about Tommy Makem and Paddy Riley and the Clancy brothers and that kind of thing, but it kept getting different stories depending on where I was reading. And today with fake news, it's even worse, but it's hard to tell what's true. So I really wanted to research out what was the truth. And at that time, fortunately, everyone that was in the book was alive and well and able to sit down with me for extensive interviews. So, for example, I spent more than 15 hours with Tommy Makem. And it's very interesting to get the history from him, from his perspective, but it's also funny because there was something that he didn't remember. We talk about the Ed Sullivan Show and how impactful that was with Irish music in America and in Ireland. When he was on the Ed Sullivan Show, the Clancy brothers, 4 times. And at that time, Irish music, the ballad tradition especially, but Irish music in general, was viewed as maybe the diddle-dee and not really taken seriously. But when he appeared on Ed Sullivan, which was 80 million viewers a week, 4 different times, that really changed people's perspective in Ireland. And they said, hey, if this is so big here, 80 million people are watching, maybe we ought to take it seriously. And maybe we ought to realize what we have, what a treasure we have. And I think that was significant. And one of the shows, Pearl Bailey was supposed to be a guest, and she didn't show. So for 19 minutes, they played. And that really changed everything for the band, certainly, but also for Irish music on a much bigger and even international level. So I wanted to get the true stories from them. I had time to do a lot of research at that time, so I could really dig my way through it. And the biggest advantage, of course, is being able to go to them themselves and not get an interpretation. And I've always been a celebratory author. I care about the good things that happen. I've never liked the talk of, I didn't see a reason for it, I guess, the divorces and the negative things. So I always wanted to move past that and basically ignore it to a certain degree. Wouldn't ignore injustice, but ignore some of this silly stuff in my mind or not relevant to the topic. And being able to sit down with them and get the true story of, why a lot of people would like, why did they break up? Why did they break up? They must have been fighting. No, don't look for that kind of stuff. The reason they broke up is because they had just done their time together. It was time for something new and fresh. Nobody wants to do the same thing for 40 years. So all of us can't be emergency room nurses for 30 something years. So like Marilyn. So I wanted to find something different and find the truth. And that's really what I strive through in all of my publications.
And thank you, John, for that, because now we have a legacy of those important musicians that have gone before us. And now people in future generations can look back and see their stories. So I really appreciate that. What presented you to write about the music behind Irish freedom?
There were ballads that I grew up with. I've always been really attracted to the ballads about this much more than the traditional. You love, each can move you in different ways. But the ballads I love the story behind them and finding out, well, why did Tommy write Four Green Fields and that type of thing. That fascinated me. So the anniversary of 1916 was coming up in a few years, and I knew I wanted to get the stories down. I was worried that we might lose some of those heroes, and we did. A few months after, Derek McCormick passed away while on a cruise, performing on a cruise. And that was really, to me, he was a barleycorn. That to me was really the fast push. And I remember sitting at Pittsburgh Irish Festival with the Macon brothers, the sons of Tommy, and saying, I really want to do this book. Do you think that your dad and others will talk to me? And every one of them, yeah, absolutely, no problem. They would love to do that. And Tommy Macon from History and Legend, he really cared about the history. He really cared about the truth. And being able to tell that story in print, I would ask him, how come you don't write it? He says, well, it's very difficult to write humor. And that's a big part of Tommy's presentation is humor. So getting the facts and sitting down with him, I learned a lot of new Irish words, ones I could put in the book and ones that I couldn't. But he would really share story after story with me. And I remember getting chills when he was telling me how he wrote Four Green Fields. And that to me was what I wanted. I wanted to be able to tell people, maybe surprise them a little bit, but fill in the gaps of more than just, okay, I saw that guy on stage, he was great. What do you know about him? Well, nothing, but I wanted more than that. And that's been my goal in all the books.
And thank you for that, John, because we are a people that share our history through our stories, and especially with passing on down the music. And that was an important part of the commemorations of 1916 that a lot of people didn't think about, is what did some of the words of these songs mean to us? Now, your other book was First Generation. So if you could explain that a little bit more for us.
Sure. First generation, I am first generation. I'm a son of immigrants. My dad is from Roscommon. I know I'm in Cleveland. He's not from Mayo. It shocks people, but he's from Roscommon near Athlone. My mom is from Montreal, and her parents are from Skerries in Dublin. So we had very much, Sunday mornings, 8 tracks playing. And one of the things that probably was a bigger influence than I realized at the time was that a lot of times on a Saturday night, there'd be a dance at the IA, West Side Irish American Club, and Dad would bring the band home afterwards. He hated the thought that they were staying in a hotel. And back then it was more usual for them to stay at people's houses. So he'd bring the band home, and I'd wake up on Sunday morning, I'd smell bacon. Yes, Dad brought the band home. That was our sign. So you get up, and the meals were, we didn't say a whole lot, but boy, did we listen. And, Bridie Gallagher, who passed away maybe 2 years ago, but, was a legend in her time. And the guys that played at the festival for many years, Derek McCormick, as I mentioned, to wake up to them at the IA, Dermot Henry and so many, there's just, the list seems endless, but really formed a lot of what I thought. And they were, for the most part, balladeers, as their singers and dancers to their music. So those stories really had a big impact on me.
And what made you decide to write a book highlighting St. Patrick's Day, and in particular for children?
There were two there. It was in my mind, and a friend of mine had been talking about writing a children's book about Irish in general. So I didn't want to do anything because I didn't want to step on what they might do. But then we've been pushing with the paper. We hit our 14th anniversary with the Ohio Irish American News, and somebody sent me a letter saying, we really like your focus on having things for children. We had added a children's page, then we added a children's coloring contest. We had the crossword puzzle, so people would hang on to the paper a little longer and keep it rather than just monthly. And they said, would you consider writing a book about St. Patrick? And it really tied into what I'd wanted to do, but didn't really know how to. I try to be careful to not preach. And when I say, that's not a shamrock, that's not Irish, that's a clover, some people will roll their eyes. Who cares? It's not that important. It's important to me. And I know, knowing you, Marilyn, as well as I do, I know it's important to you. The symbolism in a lot of what we use is very important. Maybe we weren't able to write it down. So symbols were very important to us, especially in our 100 years past. and the dirty shirts you see on St. Patrick's Day parade, and the never sold by an Irish person, but somebody sees this opportunity to make some money and they go for it. That kind of thing really frustrated me. And I hate seeing St. Patty, Patty. No offense to anyone named Patricia, but your name isn't Patrick, and Patrick should be Patty. So again, you have to be careful of not being taking yourself too seriously. But when Rockridge Press approached me and said, "Would you consider writing a St. Patrick's book for children?" There it is. There's the way to get out that message without preaching too much and doing it in a fun way, illustrated way. It's an illustrated book that would get the message across what really matters, not necessarily on negative things only, but those things are included as well. And to show to the symbolism of so much. What does the shamrock mean? What does some of the other things that we take seriously? St. Patrick's Day, of course, certainly. But some of the symbolism there as well. What is a shillelagh? What does it really mean? And those kinds of things. The symbolism was very important and a great opportunity for me to get that message across. Maybe I even instill it a little bit with the educational end into kids' heads. So when they were walking down the street and saw somebody, and I've heard this from the kids themselves already, they saw somebody drinking or green beer or with a fake bishop's hat on and a plastic horn blowing, they know that wasn't the heart of what we were doing there. And that became important to me.
And thank you, John. I did like the chapter on the difference between the shamrock and the clover. One of my favorite chapters, though, in the book was how you said that, we wear green on St. Patrick's Day, but then you really highlighted that blue was really the color. It was St. Patrick's blue. But most importantly in that chapter, I loved was when you said, it doesn't matter whether you're wearing the green or the blue. The most important thing is that you're wearing a smile on your face. And I think that's what, we refer to when Irish eyes are smiling. But really, when you see an Irishman on St. Patrick's Day with a smile going from ear to ear, you know that they're happy about, first of all, their faith, their celebration of their family, and then their celebration of their heritage. And I love that through the book, you started with St. Patrick and the symbolism with the meter, the shamrock, and how you told it was a myth with the snakes, and how you told about the parable. It was more like a parable, and that St. Patrick was taking away the evil out of that society. So I love that. And I also loved how you interwoven some of our traditions and our languages. So can you explain why you wanted to bring that part of the history into the celebration of St. Patrick's Day itself?
Yes, the readers, especially, I'm an avid reader. I enjoy it. It has formed a lot of what I think and do. I don't hear well. I wear hearing aids. So when I was younger, I read all the time as a way just to kind of shelter myself. And when you open a book, you open who knows what. You can go anywhere in the world in a book, and some other worlds too in science fiction. But I really wanted to set the benchmark, of course, of what is true and what's not, as best to my knowledge. But I wanted to kind of explore on a wider level of what it means and lay the foundation for people to dig in themselves, become avid readers themselves. And if you get a young person hooked on a book a couple times in a row, all of a sudden they start looking for books themselves. And our libraries, which for the most part have moved online, but they're still, you can go visit, and I do on purpose. You're instilling habits, and that, I think that's very important, to have habits of reading beyond what's on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or, God forbid, TikTok, and really spreading a little bit. Instill that in the kids. It's the same thing with why we did so many different things for kids at the festival, and why we put the kids' puzzle and coloring contest in the paper. Instill habits that make them realize, hey, this is kind of cool. It's not just a diddly dee. There's a whole lot more to it. And this is why my parents are so adamant about going to these things and supporting these things, even when they may not feel like it that night. They go anyway.
And I loved also how you showed that it is a feast day, but it is also celebrated throughout the world, and how you brought in how the parades really started more in America, and how they have broadened their appeal to the world, and how, Chicago dyes their river, that the festival now in Dublin is 3 days. Why did you want to include all the world celebrations?
I think because we are across the world. The newspaper, for example, is called the Ohio Irish American News, but we're in 6 states. The Irish in Ohio may have individual things that are different, but overall, we're all Irish. Diaspora is worldwide, and there are 7 times the Irish around the world that there are in Ireland. So we certainly want to share that and let people know, no matter where you go, if you're a Hibernian, you're going to have a home. If you're Irish, you're going to have a home. Somebody will help you if you need it. So I think it's important to show how widespread we are, how we survive despite massive persecution, and maybe even thrived despite it.
And I know, John, you have brought in the Irish language into the book, which I'm very appreciative of. Share a little bit of why the Ohio Irish News decided to sponsor an Irish language program.
We're in our 6th year of that. I felt that you're always at this danger point of an old language disappearing. And it's spoken fairly well in Ireland, not by a high percentage, but there's a lot of fluent people who can speak it. My dad left Ireland 60 years ago. He still can understand what someone says, sometimes can tell me words, but he hasn't looked at an Irish word, as a study for a long time. I thought it was important to try to preserve that. And just like the city of Cleveland did when they redeveloped Cleveland, they started with one area. West Park was doing well, so they started with Gordon Square, and then they did West 25th, then they did the East Side, and they moved their way across the town, so that eventually they'll join up. And we're seeing that starting to happen now. It becomes an evolved city. I want to do the same thing with the language pockets. Philadelphia, for example, has a very strong Irish language community. Cleveland now does. The East Side also conducts lessons occasionally. Akron conducts lessons. So we're building a little community here that eventually is going to unite as it becomes easier and easier to talk. When COVID hit, we just moved it online so people can join in when they want for as long as they want. The classes we found just through working together, we found great teachers, and we have several. So we started out just one group, and now there are 3 levels, if you will, within it. So if you're advanced, you don't have to sit there and listen to how to say hello. But if you're a new one and you're like, what are they talking about? You're not left alone either. So no one's left behind. I don't think that we'll continue with Zoom because the interaction part, the surprising part of the language classes has been how much everyone does things together outside of the language class. They meet for meals. They go together for meals. They study on their own and then study with friends. They volunteer for St. Pat's Gaelic football and at the West Side Irish American Club. They've taken on a couple of nonprofit volunteering. We show up at the Hooley every year and help. So our goal is now evolved from just learning the language to how can we help others, trying to continue to help others. So maybe a bridge for different people.
And John, it's great because we can learn from one another. One of the goals of the ladies with our Zoom webinars in the future is to share and try to learn our language. In fact, at our Mass that we had for St. Patrick's Day, our national secretary is from St. Louis, and she has taken some Irish lessons, and I copied from St. Coleman's, the West Side IA's Mass, and we incorporated her saying the creed in Gaelic. So nice. I'll probably be reaching out to you because this is a goal of ours that we want to start language classes for our members. I know the 2 of us met many, many years ago as children. I was a little bit older than you, or much older than you, but we met on the pitches, probably of Gunnings Field.
That's right, camogie. Oh my goodness.
Sharing our love of the Irish game, myself playing camogie and you playing Gaelic football. And I know you incorporated that in the book. So why was it so important for you to incorporate this in the book, our sports, our camogie, our hurling, our Gaelic football?
I wanted to show and highlight, I played all my life. My dad played all of his life. He won an All-Ireland for Roscommon in 1951, came here, and it was well established here, but was having a hard time. He went to Montreal originally to help them, knew that he wanted to leave Ireland because he wasn't the oldest son. So he knew he wasn't going to get the farm. He knew that his opportunities would be very slim there. He was working there in a shop, but he wanted to move on and move up to something better. He's a very driven individual, unfortunately for me sometimes. But he wanted to come to the US eventually, but he went to Ireland. People met him there, gave him an apartment, got him a job, help him, get established and grow. He met my mom at the Montreal Irish Club. They fell in love, got married in Montreal, had 2 children there. And then the GAA approached him and asked him, would he consider, they knew he wanted to go to the States at some point, and would he consider going to Cleveland? And Henry Kavanagh, who's an absolute legend here in Cleveland, especially with sports, but in a lot of things, he asked, would he come? We didn't know Henry at the time. So my dad agreed, and they moved to Cleveland. Had two more children, my slightly older sister, my Irish twin Tricia, and myself, and preserved it. I want to explain this correctly, but the overarching motto or goal of the GAA, the Gaelic Athletic Association, is not just sports. Language is involved, dance is involved. I would consider dance a sport today, but back then it probably wasn't. Literature and the preservation of all that is Irish, all the good things that are Irish, is a big part of what they do. So the sports probably gets the most recognition, especially in Ireland, but their mission is our mission. To really spread the word, the good things, the richness of our heritage in ways that will make us all proud. So when we highlight the GAA games or the dancing, we don't highlight the fight. We don't talk about it. We talk about the great goals. We talk about how these guys also do other things. Rehabbing the field at the West Side Irish American Club turned into a beautiful field now for Gaelic football. And so many Irish clubs, football teams, don't have somewhere to go. They play at a local, like we did when we were younger. We played at Impet. That's where we practiced. We practiced out of Gunning, as you mentioned. It wasn't until later that it really kind of grew, and they became affiliated on and off a few times with the West Side Irish American Club. When the West Side Irish American Club moved from Medina Fields, they had a field in Medina, and they had a club down in West 93rd. When they moved and bought the land in 1990 in Olmsted Township, it became very close for everybody, and they could go there. There was always a pitch there, but this group under Vince Beach's leadership have really taken it to another level. And they started not just Gaelic football, which has been the predominant sport here, but there's been hurling before here a few times. But now there's a hurling club. There's a camogie club. There is a ladies Gaelic football club. There are 3 youth divisions in Cleveland. And that's amazing. To me, it's amazing that Cleveland, Ohio can support a newspaper full time. We're not a big city. At one time Cleveland was the 7th largest city in the United States. Well, now it's 53rd. I am probably the last generation that is first generation. We're working on changing that, but that is a reality right now. The Irish are not coming to Cleveland like they were. That built so much of the Irish community here. So preserving that stuff's always running through my head. Presenting that stuff is always running through my head. And promoting it. The paper allows us to do that with your columns that get so much great response. And congratulations to everybody on the 75th anniversary. I'm glad Marilyn highlighted that. And some things you think, well, the Irish know this. Believe me, you'd be surprised how little, and not willfully, just, oh, that passed by. We know how frazzled things are all the time now. There's so many things flying by on social media, but having something where they sit down, look at it and say, hey, this is important. I've heard that name GAA before. What does that mean? And maybe I'm past the point of playing. I'm not past the point of supporting. And I can show up. Maybe I own a t-shirt company. I can help them a little bit with that. Or like we do with the paper. We run a column by Vince every month. We help pay for their things. They don't pay us anything. All their ads and those kinds of things are free because we want them to do well. They need to do well. Playing Gaelic football was a huge part of my life growing up. The friendships are still there in so many levels. And like you said, we met there and so many others as well, that I think that there is nothing more important than to preserve the intricacies of our heritage.
And John, I'm really glad you did focus on that, because you look at the Hibernians, you look at the GAA, you look at cultus, all of us are part of the Irish diaspora, and we want to preserve our language. We want to preserve our Catholic faith. We want to preserve our music, our dance. And that goes throughout most of Irish organizations. And I think that is fantastic that you highlighted in this book for children, because if children see it early, it will stay with them. Towards the end of the book, you included some games. Yes.
I'm sorry. I want to interrupt on one point. Just came into my head. Most of you will probably notice this, but there is a little bit of a backlash right now to being Catholic. And I don't know if I think it goes further back than Joe Biden running for president, but I've seen it more and more. The article in the Plain Dealer last Sunday or the Sunday before about comparing St. Patrick's Day to the Black Lives Movement protest just galled me. I couldn't believe that somebody would see those two as similar, a protest against injustice versus celebration of somebody who fought injustice. there are two opposite ends there. I think that Catholicism is showing, hey, it's okay to be a faith follower. You shouldn't be embarrassed to believe that there's something higher than you. I'm Catholic. I believe in that. I have a deep faith. If you're Protestant and you're a good person, I think you're a good person. That is not a qualifier for me. Being a good person is a qualifier. If you do something negative, you go after somebody, injustice, then that's a different story. But I judge each person on their person, not because you gave them some label. And that drives me nuts. So, we're thinking about that, whether we want to put a response to the plain dealer in that. They wouldn't run what I sent them. That's their prerogative to do that. But I don't think it should go unaddressed. And when you looked at all the things going on with the injustices with Black people, I said to a friend of mine that I work with that is Black, what do I do? How do I fight? I don't know what to do. And he said, every time you see it, stand up. That's all you got to do. If you can do more, great. Every time you see injustice against anyone, doesn't matter who it's against, stand up. And that's what's going to make a difference. And we're seeing that more and more. But the backlash has really kind of struck me in the last few months. Again, maybe it is tied more being public with Twitter and all that stuff against Biden, but we can't let it pass. And that's what Hibernians have done since the dawn of time, is fighting injustice. And whether it be here in America and Ireland, around the world now, we've got to keep that as our core value and our core action. It's easy to talk, but we've got to act and stop that kind of thing. Sorry to interrupt there.
No, that's okay. But you did bring up a good point at that article, because I didn't know how to respond to that, especially since the more I read into the person who wrote that article, I looked at it more that she was trying to sell her book. In some ways, I was a little upset because her book is based on an area in Cleveland where a lot of the Irish came from, which is called the Angle. And granted, the book was fiction, but she was basing it on a family that was down in that area that I am a distant relative of. So it was kind of upsetting when you see someone comparing our St. Patrick's Day activities, especially this year when we had none, and we were trying to do as much in matter of speaking, like the Hibernians are, both the AOH and the LIOH, with these webinars during Irish Heritage Month. Yeah. How our community here in Cleveland, we were sharing former parades as well as photos from different families celebrating, that she would choose this time to attack and compare it to Black Lives Matter when it was completely unrelated. And I looked at it thinking, I don't want to respond because I don't want to give her any more publicity, because I think she just wanted to sell her book.
Yeah.
So let's get back to, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, go ahead. No, the story she wrote was based upon actual people that are related to her. But as I said in the article to the PD, Plain Dealer, I'm sorry, to our local newspaper, if that's what you're experiencing, Patrick's Day, hang out with different people.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not,
because she's the wrong,
you're not hanging with the right people. Group. Exactly. So yes, let's move on.
Yeah. So, and the end of the book, you brought in some recipes. You brought in some games for kids to play. If you can elaborate a little bit on that, of why you chose what you chose for the games and for the recipes.
Sure. I had a voice running through my head the whole time that, remember, this is for 6 to 9 year olds. Now, certainly adults are going to be the ones reading it for the most part to them. But I wanted to make it simple that they would actually enjoy doing, not having their parents do for them. So that was a part of it. Again, I wanted to defer a little bit on the seriousness of it and not say, oh my God, they're taking themselves too seriously. I also am addicted to shakes. So the Shamrock Shake had to go in, and I offered to be a taste tester for everybody. So far, it hasn't worked, but the offer stands. But so we wanted to do some things that were fun. Leprechaun Trap is something certainly, when we were talking about illustrating the book, the first drawing that they sent me, I didn't illustrate it. We have someone that did it, a wonderful artist, and everything was clovers, and everything was, over the top green. I said, no, realize what some of this stuff is, why there's meaning to everything that we do. So I wanted things to be fun. I wanted to be but authentic. The leprechaun, Notre Dame style leprechaun, isn't what a leprechaun as we envision it is. It's more of a fairy. So changing their perception of that and changing the artwork because of it, I came this close, Marilyn, to eliminating clovers. And then I found
You
four
have
of them.
eliminated them.
I thought I did. They were everywhere throughout the book initially. On the back cover, the background is all shamrocks. The inside front cover is all shamrocks. Now, it was clovers then. And I didn't see a final draft. And they included in 4 or 5 spaces the clover. And that's, maybe I was taking myself too seriously, but I just had a deep sigh when I got the first copy. I won't tell you what I said. So you just try, you try the best you can, and you can't take it too seriously because it's there, it's done. So there's no point in crying over spilled milk. Next time, the next book, we'll definitely be watching for that more and emphasizing that more. But I really felt it was important to start the kids out right, but you're going to catch them, to ensnare them, if you will. It has to be something fun. And finding a leprechaun, you could do anything with that. So I thought that was important to do something that they could really enjoy and do themselves.
So you didn't have any input in who the illustrator was. So
I did not.
She did a
I assumed
wonderful job.
She did. And she didn't know. It was no intent. But the message, and I remember the meeting where I was going on and on and on. I saw people starting to shift. It's huge. You cannot have clovers. That's essential. Shamrock and a clover are 2 different things. Same family, 2 different things. Again, I was aware that I didn't want to sound like an idiot. They're asking me to do this book. You got to walk that line, if you want the support. But that's the end of that story.
Well, if clovers are in there, it just gives us another reason to explain why it really is not the symbol of Ireland,
Exactly.
or what St. Patrick used. At this time, I'd like to bring up our national president to see if she has any questions for you, John.
Great, please.
How you doing, John? Great to see you.
Great to see you.
I bought 2 copies of the book.
Oh, you're a good girl.
I try to be. It doesn't always work out, but on Sundays, at least, I try to be. So I'm giving one book to my sister, who is a grandmother. And like I said, I read the other book, and I read the book, and I'm putting the other one away in my hope chest in the hopes that one day I'll be a grandmother. But, I'm not in a rush for that.
I understand.
That's how it goes. I was looking at the picture of the girl who was the illustrator. And of course, pictures don't mean anything. She has a beautiful Irish first, Ellen Shy, I think is how you say it, or she.
Correct. Shy.
And she doesn't, she looks like she might be of Asian descent. And I thought to myself, wow, see, now that's somebody who probably didn't know anything about Irish culture, that through getting this job, this contract, she learned a lot. And I remember my mom, God rest her soul, was a nanny for a family of 3 children who were half Chinese and half Filipino. But Amy was the baby when my mom went to be their nanny. And every year around St. Patrick's Day, Amy would be in the most beautiful Irish dress that you ever saw and say, I'm Irish, because that's what she was taught by her nanny, because that's what, nannies do. So she got older, and she's like in 2nd grade or 3rd grade, and they said to her, I'm Irish. And of course, her father's like, you're half Chinese and you're half Filipino. She goes, no, I'm not, I'm Irish. I want to be, I'm Irish. You can be Chinese and you can be Filipino, but I want to be Irish. Nice. And I thought that was just great, because that's what she knew and she enjoyed and she loved. And now she's a beautiful young woman, and she's getting married. And she said to me, I'm going to wear shamrocks in the underneath of my wedding dress, because I still feel that I'm Irish, because I was raised Irish. Right. And I think that that's so symbolic of so many things. And it's great because everyone is Irish on St. Patrick's Day. But when we educate our children about being Irish, then it makes everybody a little Irish. I love the illustrations. I love the book. I love that how you explain things so that children can understand. And I love that it's not just for our grandchildren. It's for every child. because just like we want to have tolerant adults, we start by having tolerant and educated and loving children. And the best way for anyone else to understand each other is by educating us on each other. So I think this is a great step. And I think that this is a great way that we can even support people that aren't of our culture. Like, we have cultural centers and immigration centers. What a great way to introduce some kids who just came from Pakistan or from South America or Central America about what it's like to be Irish in America and in Ireland. I mean, it's like such an educational opportunity. I'm so happy that we have it.
Very much.
So I just want to say, as a mom, thank you, because my kids were raised that they weren't white or they weren't Black. They were speckled because they had freckles.
Love it. I love it.
Freckles. I'm speckled. So, I'm a little bit of everything. So, and I think that this book helps us reach that, of teaching each other about who we are. And it helps to bring back more peace and harmony among everybody. So thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I appreciate your very kind words. We can be whoever we want to be. You mentioned the symbolism. It doesn't matter what nationality you come from. It doesn't matter what faith you have. It matters what you do. And if you choose to tolerate everyone, the Asian community, for example, could certainly lose more support now than they maybe ever. I don't know. But we can't support each other. I'm involved in a lot of multicultural organizations because of that. And we find what we're trying to do now, for example, Cleveland has 14 cultural papers. So Italian, there's 4 Hispanic papers, and so on. We're trying to work together with them. If I walk up to Key Bank and say, hey, will you advertise in the paper, in the Irish News? They'll say, no, I can't do that. I can't just do the Irish and not do the others in our community. I say, okay, well, will you take an ad if you take an ad in the Irish, the German, the Italian, and the Hispanic paper at a discount for each one? Oh, yes. So it opens up a whole lot of doors to us. And nothing is about money only, but we certainly have to pay the bills. And if I can open up our exposure to all of Key Bank's customers, or expose our people saying, hey, Key Bank is supporting the cultures of Cleveland, of Ohio, of the United States, now we're getting somewhere. And so we're not just hitting our glass ceiling of being Irish, saying, well, you can't do that. You can't support that group solely. So let's support all of the groups. Now, they're not going to be able to support all of them, but they can support some. And every bit of some for us. And the German paper goes and gets a couple ads to show in the Irish News. And the Italian paper does the same thing. We're working together. We're all Americans. And that's the bottom line. We can be whatever we want to be if we take the time. And it takes a little bit of thought sometimes. Maybe it takes a lot of effort. COVID certainly derailed loads of things for us, as it did for everybody. The opportunities are there. We just have to think outside the box and think with positivity. Think with, how can I help people? I believe someone named Jesus stressed that we help each other. We do what we can to help, not hurt people. And this book hopefully will, as people are sitting there watching the parade, you watch the parade, there's a whole lot of people there of African American, of every culture under the sun watching the parade. Why not show them some of the positive things and say, hey, you know what? I read this book and it told me that guy is not real, or this person is real, or you know what I mean? It just makes them think a little bit more, and maybe that will encourage them to go learn more and realize, hey, it's not just Irish who isn't what I thought it was. It's also German or Italian or whatever it might be, and to look with a more tolerant outlook on anyone.
Absolutely. Well, I am very happy that you got to be our first author. It's that we interview.
Cheers.
It's always good to be able to say, oh, I met that person, so. And I will be at the next Ohio State Convention in Cleveland, so I'm sure you'll be there. So I'm sure I'll get to see you again. And thank you very much for doing this, and keep the newspaper going. It's really good. I get it online and I read it. I really enjoy it. So
thank you.
Kudos to you. Kudos to you.
And everyone, it is available online. The whole issue's online. It's linked, so it's got a long shelf life. So if you click on Marilyn Madigan's ad for a next event, you go to her website. So it's interactive in that sense, but all the issues are there. There's no charge for it. Please hop on anytime if you want to see some past puzzles. I really been pushing the crossword puzzles because it's a great way to learn folklore and learn about Irish history. So they're all online. All the issues are online. Please feel free to go on and have a look whenever you wish.
And thank
I'm
you,
done
John,
praying.
for keeping our Ohio Irish News going during this pandemic. And I think more importantly is thank you for writing a book like this during this time, because everyone was missing St. Patrick's Day. You know, our world came to a crashing halt in 2020, right before St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
And I know that there's an image out there that has gone viral, and we know the girl, Maura English's daughter. She has a little Irish dancing costume on, and she's crying about St. Patrick's Day being canceled.
Yeah.
And it went out again this year. And it was so important for this book to come out. And it came out the beginning of part of March, that people could buy it, read it to their children, and their children could still have some type of St. Patrick's Day celebration. For those of you that don't know, you can get the book on Amazon. And if anyone that's attending this would like to ask a question, please type it in the Q&A or the chat, and we'd be more than happy to ask John your questions.
One note on that, Marilyn. I was required by Amazon to not sell the book myself for a certain amount of time. That time has passed. So if you would like to get the book and have it autographed, email me and I'd be glad to send it out to you.
Great, that's fantastic news. And I just got a message, John, that the kettle is on and your stuff should be coming over shortly.
Thank God. This iced tea is not working today. Yesterday it might have been, but the iced tea is not working. I need some warmth.
So if there's anybody out there would like to ask any questions to John, or please feel free to type them in the chat.
You can read the chat, right, Marilyn?
Yeah, we have two people that are reading the chat and they'll ask you the questions.
Great.
But again, we're so glad that John, he was one of the first people to say that, yes, he would help the ladies out with this, our Irish Heritage Month. And even though St. Patrick's Day has passed, it's been a fantastic season for us. We celebrated St. Patrick's Day and Irish Heritage Month in a way that I don't think any of us would have ever anticipated.
Yeah.
But it shows that we are a resilient people, and we will do what we have to do to celebrate our heritage. John, one of the questions was, what is the price of the book?
It's $8 from me, $7 from Amazon. And that then plus shipping, which is generally about $1.
And somebody asked where you did most of your research.
For this book, was really pretty extensive. We've been in existence for 15 years with the paper in January. So a lot of that had been written about before. So a lot of it was in my head. But I encourage you to look at Wiki and look at those kinds of things, but also make sure that you're triple and quadruple verifying. And that's how some of that legend stuff gets taken as seriously or as truth. Make sure you're checking in multiple places to make sure that you do have the correct information. So I guess the sense of truth was probably in my head, and then some of the things that I didn't know, or that the book had gone to space. That wasn't something I remembered. I might have been a little younger then. So those kinds of things, use the internet for all it's worth, but verify, verify, verify.
And we do have a question, John. If somebody has the book, can they send it to you for you to be autographed?
Absolutely.
Or where can they get it autographed?
Absolutely. Obviously, the festivals and those kinds of things, for my previous 4 books, we always had big signings all over the place. And the festivals were a big one for that, of course, in front of 20,000 or 40,000 people instead of 5 or 6. So that's gone. Hopefully it will be back. And some of the festivals have said that they will, they're going to hold this year. Cuyahoga Falls is the first one I've heard. They're having their festival in the first week in June, I believe it is, or second week in June. So the festivals are coming back, hopefully. But you can get the book. You can see me anywhere. Look for my incognito black van that says Ohio Irish American News splashed across it. So I can't go anywhere without being known. But we'll do it there. If you want to send it to us, we'll be glad to sign it there. Hopefully, as events open up, we'll have some signings there as well. And my goal with the book was to have a long shelf life. So we didn't put a lot of dates and that kind of thing in there because of that. So hopefully we can catch up soon and share a Pepsi while we sign the book.
John, someone
we have a question coming in. Can you supply the email, the address link for your Ohio newsletter?
Sure. The website is Ohio IA News, for Irish American, ohioianews.com. And you can email me there, jobrien@ohioianews.com. But if you go online to any of them, you'll see a link as well. If you don't remember what it is, go online to search anyway, Ohio Irish American News, Ohio IA News, any of those kinds of things, or search me and use Junior, John O'Brien Jr. And I am a junior, but I also chose it because there's loads and loads of John O'Briens. There's not a whole lot of John O'Brien Juniors. So that will help you find it as well.
And if people were ordering the book directly from you, who should they make the check payable to?
Ohio IA News or me, either one, doesn't matter. They all go into the same pot.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the question.
John,
And,
it was brought to our attention that there might be some of our delegates at the Ohio State Convention that would want the book.
Okay.
Unfortunately, because of this pandemic and spacing rules, the hotel is advising us not to have vendors there. But since you are one of our brother Hibernians and you have the book, will you be able to bring it with you and they can seek you out directly at the convention?
Yes, I don't want to be a distraction or walk in late and bother anybody. I wouldn't want to be any kind of a focus, but I'm glad to have them and I appreciate the invitation to whatever way you guys want me to do it. You ladies want me to do it, I would do that.
And thank you. Again, Patty wants to tell you the kettle is on.
Cheaper. Is she blowing on it herself to boil it?
I think so. This has been fantastic, John. Thank you for being our first author. We look forward to bringing you back when you write your next book. Is there another children's book in the?
Well, I wanted to ask you guys' opinion. I should write a poll there. Obviously, the next one St. Bridget would be the one that comes first to mind. I was
You'd
thinking
have
about
our
saying,
support there.
yeah, I know. I think I'd have a lot of support. I don't like certainly you want to equal things, right? You want to treat everybody the same. So St. Bridget's certainly on my mind. St. Mel is on my mind because he's not well known. He's a nephew of St. Patrick. He's also I go to St. Mel Parish in Cleveland, but I'm very open to your feedback, put it that way, and wanting to. And I think that my goal might be to do one per year, a series. My goal, as it was this year, was to do it before Christmas, but COVID said, ha. So I would appreciate any feedback or thoughts on who you think the next couple should be.
And for those, I just want to let people know that we were on YouTube, we were on our Facebook page, and we did have people writing into me saying that they really enjoyed this program, and some of their questions were answered because they were asking where you could get the book, how you could get it signed and stuff like that. So we do appreciate it. John usually sends me, when he does the Ohio Irish News, he sends the copy to all the writers, and I have been putting it onto our Facebook page. So anyone that does not remember the website, if they go to the ladies' national Facebook page, it'll usually be there. If not, my article, I usually try to highlight myself. I know I'm a little biased about that, so you can have it. Again, as I said, John, this is fantastic that you wrote the book. Thank you very much for doing the Ohio Irish News, and that it is expanding into 6 other states. And we know that readers with the Hibernians are reading it throughout the country. So we really appreciate that, John. And we look forward to working with you in the future. And I was glad to be able to introduce my friend and my Hibernian brother and to my sisters and others, showing what a great author you are. So thank you
very
John.
much. Your support has really been unparalleled, Marilyn, and the organization as well. Every time I go to a meeting that involves multiple divisions, people come up and say hello, and I'm a little bit on the shy side, but you wouldn't have known that from today. So I tend to lay back and watch, but you're very, very welcome to come up to me anytime. Please do, and introduce yourself and chat. I'd love to hear your stories too.
Thank you very much. And if anyone wants any more information on John, you could always email me and I will find out the information for you. So thank you very much for spending your Sunday with us. Thank you for following Irish Heritage Month and the activities that the Ladies Ancient Order Hibernians have done. And look forward to programs in the future. As I said, we are going to try to do something with the Irish language. We do have some cooking videos. And, you know, I had a meeting with our juniors, and one of the things the juniors did that I thought was remarkable is a juniors division in Maryland did a little video, and they involved their youngest to their oldest junior to some of their alumni, and they did a dancing video and sent it to the nursing homes that they normally would have
Nice.
done,
Love it.
performed during St. Patrick's Day month. So we do have a good group of juniors out there, John, and we will be sharing the book with one of the youngest juniors that was on my call a couple of weeks ago. And we will be sharing the information and how important it is. And I know that our organization is in good hands because of our brother Hibernians that write books like this and that they're sharing with our youth. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And we've always preached wanting to share your events. So if you have something, send it to us. I can't share it if I don't know about it. And I'm very glad to do that. We have a section in the middle called Out and About Ohio, about as in sicker. We are in 6 states now. If COVID ever ends, we're going to be in 14. We're going from Cleveland to Clearwater. So there's going to be that strip there, not along the East Coast, but in between, going right down. But we have to find people that can help us there. So our next stop is Pittsburgh and Detroit. That's where we're going to be opening new chapters. And inside the paper, doesn't change a lot, but it adds a page. So Michigan will have a page of what's going on in Michigan. Pennsylvania will have a page of what's going on in Pennsylvania. I'm not going to step on the Philadelphia paper. We're going to kind of keep, to our area with Pittsburgh and this way. But we are wanting to expand, and we've signed a lot of contracts, which scares the heck out of me, to expand once COVID goes home. So please send me your events. You're very welcome to do so, and we will do whatever we can to promote them.
So what 6 states are we in currently?
We are in Ohio and in all the states that touch it, except for West Virginia. So Pennsylvania, Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky, got to take my mind around that, and a little bit of New York, only as far as Buffalo. So there is presence there, and those are our targets to go forward to what we have done in the past. It's worked well is we place a writer in that city, generally someone that lives there that's in the Irish community. They start writing a column, for example, Pittsburgh Irish, just like we have Cleveland Irish and Akron Irish and Cincinnati Irish and Columbus Irish right now. They start writing a column in there, start to get known through there. My job is the advertising. It's not their job, but their job is to know what's going on and to send it to us and to talk to people about the paper so that over time, under promise, over deliver, people will start advertising and allow us to build that way. So if you know somebody in any of those cities, and it doesn't have to be a main city, it has to be just near somewhere that wants to write about their state or their city, please send them on our way. We really want to talk and really get growing as soon as COVID allows us to. Starting in when it does, we're going to be in Giant Eagle, we're going to be in Mark's, CVS, and another drugstore that's Drug Mart. So we'll be in those stores as well, starting whenever COVID goes away. So that's really going to help us accelerate too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And at this time, I'd like to bring our group of panelists, if they would turn on their videos, because we cannot do this without the support of our national president and our team. We have Mary Ann McFarland, Brianna Curran, Kathleen McEnany, and Sharon McGrath. They have been helping us through all these webinars. And again, we could not do this without the support of our national president and her board. So thank you very much. And everybody enjoying their day and have a wonderful Holy Week. And I have a blessed Easter.
Thank you, everyone.